Today I'm going to talk about future-ready leadership. Let's debunk the myth that you need to be always on. Okay. So if you're a leader and you're burning out and you're always on, that on button is pressed and you're running like crazy, working like crazy, what if I told you that that very mentality is actually holding you back from future-ready leadership? Now, it's time to really debunk this myth because this constant availability that equals success is a lie. And I want you to discover how to lead effectively without sacrificing your well-being because it has a ripple effect, right? Our energy is contagious. Our confidence is contagious. It's biology. People pick up on energy. So let's talk about cultivating a culture of well-being at work and what that looks like. Well, the first thing is, as a leader, you need to have sustainable leadership practices. Now, I learned this early in my career. I was a young CEO and I was constantly always on. Now, I basically was working long hours, and every time I was asked to hit a new KPI, I'd hit a new KPI. Every time I was asked to do the impossible, I would say, I can do that. And eventually I found that the pressure I was putting on the people around me and the pressure upon myself was taking a massive toll. So I actually flipped that thinking and I started to do meditation, do mindfulness, do those practices where I took a break in the middle of the day, have healthy catch up with employees, take time to stop and smell the roses. You all know what this is about. You're just too used to having the button pressed on. And so therefore you're burning out. Now, once you start to do this, it will build team morale, because what happened for me was I suddenly found that people felt more energized around me. I suddenly found that people were working harder, but in a different way. They were having fun. They were now enjoying what they were doing. But I was also valuing them as humans because we humanized the brand. And then morale and productivity started to increase. People started to do the projects that they love to do with enthusiasm, right? And we started to create a commitment level that was having a massive impact. Now, this was great. It was also great for me because my well-being increased dramatically and I started to see people differently. Now, the second most important thing that you need to understand, and if you're burying your head in the sand on this one, stop. As a leader, you need to understand. Psychological safety claims are rising at a greater level than muscular injuries. Workers' compensation claims for psychosocial injuries are very high. That means that premiums in companies are increasing every single year. Now, that means that people are literally saying to you, we want to have work-life harmony. And as I say to people, work-life harmony is fitting your job into your life rather than the opposite. I've been talking about work-life harmony now for decades because it is really fundamental. So when you value people and you value work-life harmony, what happens is that you start to reduce those claims. You start to have a place where morale has increased and people understand that you care about their safety. You care about their mental well-being. The problem is that we're still working in this outdated model where we literally think that a policy and procedure and information and following the rules and the regulations is going to make a difference. But we are human beings. So we need to think about prevention, right? We need to think about where an employee is at in terms of their mental well-being. And we need to be able to engage with them, not shut down conversations, but be open and fluid in our conversations. One of the greatest things that I learned as a leader was to basically critically analyze my business and ask people what they thought. And sometimes I didn't like what they had to say, but I always listened, because it's very important as a leader to actively listen to people. right? People in a job design context talk about feedback all the time. And if we're not having a two-way mutual benefit conversation, then we're going to have psychological safety concerns at work. And we don't want that, right? We want a workplace where we're an employer of choice. We want a workplace where people feel safe and comfortable. They give a lot of their time and energy to work. Let's make it a great place to be. And the third important thing, if you want to basically cultivate that culture of well-being, is don't just focus on the metrics. That is an outdated model as well. As soon as we start throwing out these traditional metrics, return on investment, I need X amount return on investment, we lose people, right? But if we say, wow, look at the net promoter score, they're actually talking about us in the community. We're doing an amazing job. This is fantastic. Look what people are saying. If our staff engagement is really high and people are saying, we love working here, this is a great place to be, productivity and success automatically happens. So let's recap. If you want to cultivate a culture of well-being, first thing you need to do yourself is have sustainable leadership practices. The second is take psychological injury claims and people seriously. Take people's mental health seriously. And the third thing is don't rely on traditional metrics. I'm Dr. Clare Allen, and if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to my channel to hear more.